Hello out there. Well, in this video, the subject I want to share on is paying for predictability. And when you buy a home base, that is exactly what you're doing. You are paying for predictability, for a level of stability. And humans are creatures of habit. We like habit, we like predictability, and it is a seductive, I don't necessarily want to say seductive, but it's an enticing thing for us to feel that we have a guaranteed routine, an assurance that this is going to happen this way each day, with the understanding there's no guarantees in life, but humans like things stable. We're creatures of habit. So for nomads, for people living in their cars, vans, or people living the RV lifestyle, there's a term called a home base. And a home base means either a raw piece of land that you park your vehicle, a RV lot, meaning a paved lot with hookups, utilities, sewer, electric, etc., or even a small, tiny home on a piece of land that after some traveling you go back to, and that's your home base. A home base is pretty much what it is, a piece of property that you own and you travel either a lot or a little bit, and from time to time you go back to your home base, and it's a level of predictability. When you go to your home base, for the time you're there, it's predictable what supermarkets you're going to go to. It's predictable what doctors you're going to go to. It's predictable on where you're going to get gas. You have structured routines and habits within your main dwelling area that provide a level of stability and comfort. And so you are paying for predictability when you buy a home base. Is that worth it to do it? In some instances, yes, it is worth it. I think the number one instance when having a home base is worth it is if you're older or as you're getting older. Because as you age, driving is more dangerous. I mean, driving is already dangerous. Driving is one of the most dangerous things you do in society. And so as you get older, your eye-hand coordination and your reflexes and being behind the wheel could be very dangerous, and it could be very unpredictable. And so certainly you don't want to live your whole life on the road at a certain point in life. Most campgrounds have a maximum stay of 14 consecutive days. So unless you're going to rent a spot at an RV park, you are pretty much guaranteed on average that at maximum, you're going to have to move. You're going to have to drive distances at least every 14 days. And being on the road a lot when you're elderly is not ideal. And being on the road, even if you're young, like I've stated in many other videos, can wear on you mentally and physically. Traveling takes something out of you mentally and physically. I've lived in my car for 2 years. I've owned a condo for 15 years prior. I sold my condo. I started living out of my car for many reasons, to downsize and also relocate to Florida, which I've currently have done. And I have entertained throughout the past year, past 8 months probably more, to really, now that I'm settled into Florida, do I really want to buy a raw piece of property, a RV lot, or a tiny home area? I don't think I would ever get a tiny home, but some type of home base to provide some predictability, stability, and to add a ease to life. Because, going on vacation and traveling is great, but there's something inside humans that we also gravitate towards predictability, to rest our mind, to rest our reflexes, to rest our adaptation. When you're constantly moving, you're constantly adapting, and we need time to rest from that, especially as we get older. Now, there's exceptions to this rule. I may be an exception at this time, but we are creatures of habit. And especially if you're not self-disciplined, and especially if you don't like to spend a lot of time moving and being outdoors, without the home base, you're going to see why many, if not most people, have a home base, because it's just too much to do it and to sustain it long term, to live this life in your car, van, or RV without a home base. Now, I've done it for 2 years. I have no immediate plans to buy a home base. I always kind of think about it in the back of my mind, especially now that I've relocated to the area I like. And I know I don't want to travel the country. Some people want to travel the country. But even after you do that for a couple of years, you may get bored and want a home base. And I'm at the point where I've kind of settled out where I like the most in Florida. But for right now, to keep all my options, to keep my flexibility, and considering I'm only 38 as I make this video, I still go back to I'm best off not committing to a home base because I'm just not there yet. I'm obviously, in my mind, I feel a little bit closer than I was when I sold my property that I owned for 15 years. When I got out of that property, I was like, I don't want anything to do with any commitment for a long time. Because when you sell a property, especially if you've owned it for a considerable amount of time, it's like getting a divorce. Buying property is one of the biggest financial transactions most people will ever make, and it's one of the most committed responsibilities an average person will ever have to own a house, to own a property. And so after I sold it, I felt like I got divorced. And I remember hearing Mark Anthony, a guy who was married to Jennifer Lopez. I remember him saying after he got divorced from Jennifer Lopez, they asked him, would you ever get married again? And he said, well, I'm just getting out of a divorce. You don't ask a fighter at the end of a 12th round fight after a loss if he'll ever fight again. He's beat up and he needs to recover and heal. And then you ask him later. And, that always stuck in my mind. And so initially, when you start to live this lifestyle, you may have no hope or no focus on buying a home base because you're totally done with commitment. You're totally done with the obligation of owning property. Then eventually, you may understand, which I'm trying to communicate in this video, that when you have a home base, you're paying for predictability. You're paying for stability. Because living on the road, there's constant variable, which is the opposite of predictability. Variable, different stores, different areas, different cultures, different roads, different ways to get from A to B. Every town, every city, every state has a different layout. That's variable. Predictability is the same town, the same roads, the same culture, the same way, just about every day. So you have to exert less energy and you have more comfort when you're in a predictable pattern. Now, certainly you get bored in this predictable pattern and you want a little spice, so you want variable. But if you have all variable and no predictability, you may get overwhelmed and say, you know what, I'm getting burnt out on this nomad life. So this is my observation. 2 years living in my car. 15 years I owned a property. And this is some insight. And this is what I've observed and what I feel. Right now, I still am not ready to commit to another property, but I'm making these observations and these notes as I go, and I'll share them with you. I share daily videos. In addition to that, each day I go live on YouTube. You're welcome to join the channel for free. You hit the red subscribe button, hit a little bell on there. That'll get you notified. And I appreciate if you give the video a thumbs up, if you share it. And I thank all those people who do give me positive feedback. I have met some great people on YouTube. It's been almost a surprise. You meet some bad, but like everything in life, there's been a lot of good. So just sharing my journey. Peace and love. Do your best to keep pushing forward.